Hey guys, Nick Frederking, Agrigold agronomist here in Southern Illinois. This week we're focusing on maximizing our planting opportunities, and today I specifically want to focus on hybrid placement and timing because I think there's some timely information for me to pass along to you as it pertains to the weather this weekend and how that might affect our planting plans moving forward. So jumping right into it, here's our forecast for Southern Illinois. I think most places in Southern Illinois would mimic the trends shown here in the weather forecast. We've had a beautiful week to get field work done, and it doesn't stop on Saturday. We're still going to be 81 for a high, but quickly in Sunday, thunderstorms roll through, cold front happens, and air temperature drops significantly. Now that can have some detrimental effects on our seedlings that we've put in the ground. I see no problem with anything we've planted to this point, but I will advise the first 24 to 48 hours after planting, we have got to have warm temperatures. We can't have a drastic change in temperature to the cold and shock that seed because it will lead to imbibitional chilling, rupturing out underground, leafing out underground, and almost certain death. So as you look at the forecast here, it's so hard not to run those planters out there on Saturday. We're sitting 81 degrees, t-shirts. I've seen some guys in shorts planting this week. It is going to be very difficult to pull the reins back, but I would advise on Saturday, pull those reins back. If you plant on Saturday, those seedlings are going to be at a higher risk for this imbibitional chilling and seedling death going into this drastic temperature change on Sunday. Remember, it's not about the air temp, but it's about that soil temp that'll follow. So if we can plant from a cold into a warm, that's good. Plant into a warming trend, that's good. However, on Saturday, we're going to be planting into a cooling trend. That is bad. Planting into a cooling trend is no good. That's going to put our seedlings at a big risk. Now, I know not everybody's going to slow the planter down. So if I had to give advice on top of that, I would say, hey, maybe soybeans are the best thing to plant at that time frame because we can lose 20,000 seedlings and still be okay on final stand. We can't lose that significant drop in population on corn because we do sacrifice a ton of yield that way. So my first level advice for the weather moving through the weekend is pull back the reins on the planter, maybe focus more on tillage or getting some of that fertility done. If you have to plant, I would recommend soybeans be the go-to. Leave the corn in the shed. If you decide to plant corn, just recognize that risk that's associated. As you start on Saturday and plant closer and closer to that Sunday cold front, your chance of imbibitional chilling is only going to increase as you get closer. Outside of the weather this weekend, I think there's some other details that we need to take note of. That would be that as we plant in April, we still have relatively cool and wet soils. So we need to identify the hybrids that have really good emergence to maximize their ability in these cooler soils in April. If we have hybrids going to the field today that are maybe a little less than desired on emergence, we know that the longer that those hybrids sit in the soil and takes them longer to emerge, they're going to be more susceptible to things like seedling disease and insect pressure. Now, if you have questions about which hybrids have the best emergence, you can reference our profile guides or agrigold.com. Reach out to your local DSM or myself. We'd be happy to show you that the ratings for emergence are on every hybrid that Agrigold carries on those reference materials I just talked about. But I also want you to remember that just because a hybrid has great emergence does not mean we can go plant it anywhere. We still have to place that hybrid on the right acre and manage it accordingly. So you'll also find that in those ratings, things like drought tolerance or how well a hybrid handles wet feet on those poorly drained soils. So please recognize that we need to prioritize hybrids with great emergence, but we also need to make sure they're being placed on the right acre so we get the most out of them at the end of the year. And finally, the last thing I want to bring to your attention is how long it takes for some of these seeds to emerge when we plant them in early April. You know, in 2022, if we would have planted on April 5th, it would have taken almost 14 days, 2 weeks, to get that emergence. And that's largely due to the lack of heat units we face in April. And that's what seedling germination and emergence is all about. We have to have heat units, growing degree units, if you will, to get those seeds up and above the soil surface. Now, to find the growing degree units, you can use this formula here. We'll take our daily high temperature without going over 86. We'll add our daily low temperature without going below 50. We'll divide that number by 2 and then subtract 50, and that gives us our GDUs for the day. We're looking for about 120 GDUs to get corn and soybean emergence. So for example, if we had a daily high of 65 degrees Fahrenheit and a daily low of 42 degrees Fahrenheit, we would take 65 plus 50, because remember, we can't go below 50 on our daily low, and we'll add those two together. We'll get 115. We've got to divide that by 2 to get 57.5, and then subtract 50, which would give us, for the day, 7.5 GDUs. And remember, we need about 120 GDUs to get corn and soybean seedling emergence. So you can imagine when we're only picking up 7 to 10 GDUs a day, it takes us a little while to get those things emerged if we've got adequate planting depth. So please use this formula if you've got seed in the ground already, help you estimate when that stuff should be coming up and showing itself above the soil surface. If you have any other questions about the timing with weather this weekend, which hybrids have the best emergence scores, or how long you think it's going to take for your currently planted seeds to get up and out of the ground, please reach out to your local DSM or myself. We'd be happy to help you. Thanks.